Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Tropical Storm Debby hits Canada after pounding the U.S. with tornadoes and flooding. Plus, tributes continue to pour in for the Calgary firefighter killed fighting the Jasper wildfire. And the Lethbridge Air Show gets permanently canceled. We explain why.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks for joining us. Remnants of Tropical Storm Debby are partly to blame for heavy rainfall in parts of eastern Canada. Environment Canada says some areas of the region can expect up to 120 millimeters of rain as the remnants merge with another low-pressure system over the Great Lakes. The agency says up to 80 millimeters had already fallen in Montreal by 10 a.m. local time, and more was expected today. The storm system has prompted alerts and warnings about the risk of flash flooding in communities in southern Ontario and Quebec. Debby was downgraded from a tropical storm, but not before it lashed the coasts of the Carolinas in the United States with rain. Emergency crews performed 33 high water rescues in a South Carolina county Friday after up to 9 inches of rain fell overnight. As remnants of Debby slammed into the eastern seaboard in the U.S., residents of the Vermont town of Lyndonville, which was hit by flash floods twice last month, worry the pace of recovery can't keep up with the severe weather.
We have approximately 7 bridges that are out, and we have lost 6 homes so far that have been destroyed. And today's mission for me is I've been on foot going to these homes, one-family homes that are on private roads or private lanes, and checking in on them to see if we can offer any assistance, and some houses that are on town-maintained roads that we still can't get there.
Took out the garage. It took out most of the dog fence that used to go out there. Used to be 100 feet from Mom's house to the line, and now it's less than 30 before. And our fear is if Debby comes through with all that rain, we're going to lose the house too. That is our fear. So we're doing a lot of this, and a lot of people have been helpful. Since we have no water, they've been giving us water.
Tributes are pouring in for the firefighter killed last weekend while fighting the Jasper wildfire. Morgan Kitchen, who turned 24 last month, died Saturday when he was hit by a fallen tree. He was based out of Rocky Mountain House and had served both in the Canadian Armed Forces and British Royal Marines. His funeral service will be held August 17th in Calgary.
In honor of Morgan Kitchen's sacrifice, flags will be flown at half-mast at all forestry and parks facilities. Nothing I can say will make his loss any easier to his family, community, or those who are with him on the front lines. But I hope those closest to him know he gave his life doing something he knew was important.
There are currently 111 wildfires burning in the forestry protection area of Alberta. Of those, 13 are classified as out of control. Right now, the municipality of Jasper is the only area still under an evacuation order. In the last 4 days, more than 130 of its displaced residents have toured the town site. Firefighters from Costa Rica arrived in Alberta Thursday, joining teams from Mexico, the U.S., South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as teams from all over Canada already deployed. The main road through Jasper National Park has reopened to all traffic. Parks Canada says it will stay open until 9 p.m. local time. It's the first time commercial traffic allowed to flow again through the park's main east-west highway since a wildfire forced 25,000 people to flee over 2 weeks ago. Alberta officials are advising drivers to come with a full tank of gas since no stopping along the highway is allowed. Saturday marks the 10th anniversary of the death of Tina Fontaine. The body of the 15-year-old wrapped in plastic and a duvet cover was pulled from the Red River in Winnipeg on August 17, 2014. It's believed she died a week earlier. The death shocked the country and was at the catalyst for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The Conservatives are calling for an emergency meeting of the House of Commons Public Safety Committee to find out how a man who was alleged to have taken part in ISIS violence overseas was able to enter Canada and obtain citizenship. Speaking with reporters on Parliament Hill earlier this week, Conservative MP Andrew Scheer discussed the recent arrest on terrorism-related charges of Ahmed LDD and his adult son, Mustafa LDD, in Richmond Hill, Ontario. The RCMP alleged the two were in the advanced stages of carrying out an attack in Toronto at the time of the arrests.
Last week, Canadians were shocked and horrified to find out of a terrorist plot planned by a father and son who appear to have links to ISIS. Evidence exists that the father was involved in a horrific torture attack in an ISIS video. Shortly after the events in the video, this individual was admitted into Canada and later was granted citizenship by the Trudeau government. This is a colossal failure of Trudeau's national security system. Canadians have a right to know what went wrong. How did this individual gain entry into Canada and obtain Canadian citizenship? My colleague, Frank Caputo, the acting public safety critic for the Conservative Party, has written a letter to Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Public Safety, demanding that the details surrounding this foiled terrorist plot be made public so that Canadians can get answers.
Today, Tory leader Pierre Poilievre backed the steel and aluminum sector in demanding Canada act swiftly on a Chinese tariff package. Poilievre vowed a Conservative government would protect jobs by matching U.S. tariffs on Chinese-produced electric vehicles and EV components, including steel and aluminum. The announcement took place in Hamilton at the city's Stelco plant.
He's giving out rebates for people to buy Chinese-made cars. So let's get this straight. Justin Trudeau and sellout Singh want to give taxpayer-funded subsidies for buying Chinese-made cars while they impose tax penalties on the manufacturing of Canadian-made cars. No wonder hundreds of billions of dollars have left our country and are creating jobs in other countries. Canada's workers are the best in the world. They deserve powerful paychecks and a Prime Minister who will protect them. Rather than allowing authoritarian overseas governments to steal our jobs with their low labor standards and poor environmental policies, we're going to bring home those paychecks to Canada. Bring home our jobs. Thank you.
RCMP in Strathmore, Alberta are still diligently investigating a tragic shooting that occurred in Rocky View County on August 6, where two people were shot, one superficially and the other one fatally wounded. Police are seeking public assistance in identifying a person of interest in this homicide investigation. Authorities believe this person may have information which can assist them, as he may be a potential witness to the shooting. He was seen in Cochrane on August the 5th between 7 and 8 a.m. If you can identify this man, please contact Strathmore RCMP. In addition, this car was captured on a dash cam video driving past the scene at Range Road 282 and Township Road 250. At the same time, the shooting occurred on August 6th at 11:55 a.m. It's believed to be a 2013 to 2015 dark gray colored Volkswagen Golf sports wagon. RCMP need to speak to the occupants of this car. If you are the owner of the car or know who might be, please contact Strathmore RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS.
This is a random act of violence. That's what the RCMP have told me. There's not a lot of details to report in regards to what is going on. I can tell you that there certainly is an active manhunt. I can also tell you that they've engaged all police services in Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton, other municipal police services in order to try to figure out the identity of the people that committed these person or persons who've committed these heinous crimes.
Calgary's mayor says the city is considering ways to strengthen a key water main for the long term, including replacing it altogether. Jody Gondek says in the spring, the city could add a liner or a sleeve to the pipe to strengthen it or dig alongside it and build an entirely new one. The pipe in the northwest Calgary ruptured in early June, forcing residents to undertake a series of water conservation measures, from not watering lawns to taking shorter showers. Restrictions are to begin again at the end of the month as more problem spots in the pipe need urgent repairs. Former U.S. President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris have agreed to participate in a debate on the TV network ABC. Trump had previously said he would not appear on ABC because of a lawsuit. The much-anticipated face-off will air live on September 10th, just 2 months ahead of the U.S. presidential election. The Lethbridge International Air Show Association has made the difficult decision to cancel all future air shows, citing multiple reasons. BCN's Landon Hickok has more of those details.
After more than 20 years in the air, the Lethbridge International Air Show Association has announced their permanent dissolution and the cancellation of their famous annual air show. The association has stated in a press release that multiple factors has led to this decision, including challenges in securing adequate funding, volunteer support, securing demonstration assets and performers, as well as complications in legal and logistical requirements.
These guys have produced very high-level, very professional air shows. We've seen tens of thousands of people go through the gates every time this show goes on. Brings an enormous crowd, not only to Lethbridge, but brings in international acts, international equipment from different militaries. I think it's just been an amazing draw for the city and a great way, honestly, to showcase the airport that we have and some of the capabilities in our region. So all kinds of reasons to be sad to see that go. But at the end of the day, I think it's also a sign of the times when, it's challenging to get volunteers. Insurance and legal costs are just too much, apparently, that they could not surmount. So very unfortunate.
The association also took the time to extend their gratitude to their supporters and collaborators over the years and have taken the steps to cease operations immediately. This coincides with the announcement from the Alberta International Air Show Association, who announced last month that the Alberta International Air Show that takes place outside of Edmonton will not take place this year, also due to funding and securing demonstration assets, but they are hopeful to return next year in 2025. From Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
As mentioned on BCN, former Lethbridge City Councillor Bridget Mearns announced her intention to run for the NDP nomination for Lethbridge West in the upcoming by-election. She will face another former City Councillor, Rob Miyashiro, for the NDP nomination. We had the chance to speak with Bridget on why she strongly feels she'd be the best candidate.
The specific motivation for me was Bill 18 and Bill 20, which affect municipal government. And of course, that's my background, so I'm a little protective of that. And I certainly didn't appreciate what I saw in those bills and quite concerned. But if we take a look at healthcare, we take a look at education, we take a look at CPP, we take a look at mining, there's a ton of things that require attention and a strong voice. So what I'm bringing is quite a wholesome, full experience. I'm well-versed in the legislature. I'm well-versed in government processes. I'm very connected with business. I understand the private sector. I understand the not-for-profit sector, having worked there as well. I'm connected to this community. I'm a passionate advocate for this community. So I'm proposing that I bring it all.
The nomination meeting will be held on September 7th, with the by-election due to be called by the end of the year. The community of Lethbridge and Coaldale can now travel by bike between the two cities. This is after the recent inauguration of the first phase of the Link Pathway. The rural bike path will allow users to run and walk along the canals and along southern Alberta's agricultural heartland. Alvin Fritz, principal architect at the Alvin Reinhard Fritz Architecture Institute, explains why this project is so important.
It's very important because the 512 is a dangerous road to travel on. It's good to provide an alternative away from the highways for safety. But then it's also good because now people can come and they can experience the natural environment, and we're going to have interpretive centers that show the irrigation and the agriculture of the region. Many communities have pathways, and so it's good for there to be a pathway between Coaldale and Lethbridge. So the link pathway was envisioned in 2009 as part of an integrated development plan. It was a plan for the area between Coaldale and Lethbridge, and we looked at it and saw part of St. Mary's River Irrigation District, and it was a perfect place for a bike path. And eventually St. Mary's River Irrigation District embraced it as well and made their land bank available for the pathway.
Fritz says when the final phase is finished, the pathway will have 5 kilometers of safe transit. He also says the goal is to connect Birds of Prey and Henderson Lake. The Galt Museum in downtown Lethbridge unveiled a new exhibition Friday, the last of a trilogy of exhibits highlighting spiritual and culturally significant sites within traditional Blackfoot territory. It was co-curated by 3 Blackfoot members who intend to educate people on the history and names in Blackfoot of sites ranging from North Saskatchewan all the way down to Yellowstone. Photos are sourced from local photographers, and archival repositories decorate each poster for authenticity. Digital versions of all 3 exhibits are available on the Galt Museum and Archives website.
Well, we want to put an imprint, using historic sites, natural sites, just how vast that we are with the landscape, from, just a geographical border. It's kind of educating and correcting history, curriculum, the academia, the people of this province, other nations, that we have names for all these places that have been, that we've been here.
With this exhibit, I was able to tell the stories, the oral history, my family's oral history, those stories that were passed down from generation to generation of grandparents, and their experience during the buffalo days and the buffalo hunting days.
The exhibit will remain at the Galt Museum until February 9th of next year, where, like previous installments, will become a traveling exhibit. Digital technology and its applications for agriculture were on display this week at a field day hosted by the Lethbridge Research and Development Center. Researchers, producers, and technology suppliers from across Alberta and Saskatchewan took part in the event. The field day looked at the use of remote sensing technology, smart sensors, autonomous robots, and drones being used to monitor several field trials just outside of Lethbridge. Alberta Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada research scientist Keshav Singh says the event is an opportunity to illustrate the importance of these technology tools in modern farming.
We are targeting different tools and technology of drones can coming in the picture and utilizing those different sensors, which we call the smart and novel sensors, and how we are driving different objectives from those things. So our event is more about familiarizing the producers and farmers group and different researchers, agronomists about how they can utilize this ongoing technology on drones, aerial imaging, proximal sensing, and get out some information which the plant is telling to them. This is the first year the Retail Ag Field Day is here, and we are promoting having this next 2025 the same field day, and it can be the larger extent reaching out to the more audience whoever interested in learning the technology tools and how it can be utilized for their use in agriculture.
Well, we saw a mainly sunny day today in Lethbridge, but still a bit cooler than seasonal. All of that's about to change, though, as we soar back into the high 20s for the weekend and beyond. I'll be right back with weather. Welcome back. Well, a fairly lovely weekend is shaping up for us as we see those temperatures start to soar back into the above average for this time of year. So today we were still a little bit below average at 24, and then tomorrow we're going to be right at seasonal, right there at 26 degrees on Saturday, clear skies, and then climbing up to 27 Sunday, 29 on Monday. Same thing for Tuesday, 29 degrees, 28 on Wednesday, and then a lovely 26 degrees on Thursday. So definitely still feeling like summer. for this coming week. Average high for this time of year, 26. Average low, 11. 37. That was our record high temperature on this day. That happened back in 2000. And 1 year earlier, we went from the highest to the lowest on record for this day, which was only 3 degrees back in 2001. Okay, sun rose this morning at 6:14. Sun set this evening at 8:58 p.m. So we're now in that 8 o'clock hour for our sunsets. Okay, on the West Coast, fairly sunny but slightly smoky conditions. Victoria sitting at 22, sunny and hazy in Vancouver, 25 for the high there, 26 in Edmonton with clear skies and haze, 23 rather for the high in Calgary, looking at mainly clear skies there as well. Lots of sunshine across the prairies tomorrow, 25 for the high in Saskatoon, 23 Regina, 24 in Winnipeg. As we get into the central part of the country, Toronto seeing a high of 25 degrees, could see that slight chance, actually 30% chance of showers there in Toronto tomorrow. Ottawa sitting at 25 with a 30% chance of showers. Mix of sun and cloud expected in Montreal tomorrow with a high of 24. Now, as we get into the East Coast here, they have been slammed with a lot of rain today, a lot of rainfall warnings, but those are supposed to end this evening as those special weather statements subside, and we're just seeing slight chances of rain. So we're seeing more like still 5 millimeters tomorrow in Fredericton, high of 25 degrees. Halifax could see about 15 centimeters, 24 for the high there and 27 for the high in Charlottetown, 20 for the high in St. John's, seeing about 2 to 4 millimeters of rain. So much of that tropical storm Debby behind them by the time we get into tomorrow. There you have it. That is your forecast. The Canada Industrial Relations Board says services provided by rail employees do not amount to essential work. That opens the gate to a full-fledged strike in less than 2 weeks. The board's ruling today says a work stoppage would not pose a serious danger to public health or safety, despite concerns around food security. Fuel supply and water treatment shippers and producers have said the potential job action by workers at Canadian National Railway or Canadian Pacific Kansas City would halt freight traffic, clog ports, and disrupt industries. Cineplex says it lost more than $21 million in its second quarter as fewer people went to movie theaters. The Toronto-based movie theater chain says that compares to the roughly $176 million it earned a year earlier. Attendance fell from 8.7 million people from nearly 13 million a year ago, but the head of Cineplex says things picked up at the box office over the past 2 months, and it's still recovering from last year's Hollywood strikes. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 85 points on the day to finish at 22,311. The Dow was up 51 points to 39,497. The S&P 500 was up 24 to 5344. And the Nasdaq was up 85 points to finish at 16,745. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 84 cents to 77.03 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was up 3 cents to $2.16 U.S. Gold was up $3.79 to $24.3132 U.S. an ounce, and silver was down 7 cents to $27.58 U.S. an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.48 per bushel. Barley is at $5.66. Canola is at $13.53, and corn is at $7.01 per bushel. Live cattle were up $2.20 to $184.25. Feeder cattle were down $2.38 to $262.18. Lean hogs were up $1.33 to $102.80, and the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours at $72.80 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, remnants of Tropical Storm Debby are partly to blame for heavy rainfall in parts of eastern Canada. Environment Canada says some areas in the region can expect up to 120 millimeters of rain as the remnants merge with another low-pressure system over the Great Lakes. The agency says up to 80 millimeters had already fallen in Montreal by 10 a.m. local time, and more was expected today. The storm system has prompted alerts and warnings about the risk of flash flooding for communities in southern Ontario and Quebec. Now, you might want to curl up for this next interview because after the break, we slide into the stone-cold world of curling and learn the sweeping history of the Lethbridge Curling Club. And hey, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. Also, be sure and visit our website anytime to check out a number of our stories and interviews.
Curling is a unique sport, sometimes described as a cross between shuffleboard and checkers, and of course, all taking place on a sheet of ice. Curling rinks are ubiquitous across Canada, and here in Lethbridge, it is no different. To chat more about curling today, we are joined by Kirk Mearns, the General Manager for the Lethbridge Curling Club. Great to have you with us today, Kirk.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, I love chatting about, well, and playing curling. It's you and I were just chatting before we got started that I need to get signed up for the curling league in my community. Can you share with us a little bit of the history of the Lethbridge Curling Club?
Yeah, the Lethbridge Curling Club has been it's been around a long time. It's over 125 years. It started as a lot of winter sports do, outdoors on frozen ponds and wherever ice could be formed. We moved indoors in the early 1900s when they started to figure out sort of they could make ice indoors, but curling really came into its own in the 50s when artificial ice was developed and we could start to move indoors and make ice when we wanted it, and make it the way we wanted to. So the Lethbridge Curling Club was at the old Civic Center since 1950, so for 66 years. We've been in the community a long time.
That's great. And so what have been some of the major bonspiels that have been here in Lethbridge?
Lethbridge has been really lucky. We've hosted all of the big major national bonspiels. We've had the Scotties a couple of times, World Men's, World Women's. We had the Briar just a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. The club has hosted the World Seniors, the World Mixed Doubles. We've been very lucky to host pretty much all of the major curling events.
Wow, that's great. So what is it about the sport of curling that you think really draws people in?
I think it's something that you can do from 9 to 90. It's easy to learn and impossible to master. We find it's a sense of community. People, you get together, it's fun. They can enjoy the social aspect of it, and I think it boils down to it's an open sport where people can learn. It's not expensive. It's easy to get in, and curling clubs are just welcoming places.
Right, and once again, circling back to you and I chatting briefly before we got started, there is that. It's an iconic Canadian thing, the smell of the rink. And I know for myself, thinking of those childhood Saturday nights or something, leaving the farm to go to the curling club. Can you talk a little bit about that community building aspect of curling?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that hasn't changed. We're an activity where if mom and dad want to come and curl on a Saturday afternoon in one of our leagues or Saturday night, bring the kids, let them run around and have some fun and sit down and have a pop and some French fries while mom and dad are curling. Chance to get them involved. It's a real family activity and very, like I say, open, welcoming. We're a sport that wants to include everybody, wants to continue to grow.
Yeah. Now, speaking about our Lethbridge curling facility specifically, how does that compare with other facilities in the province?
We're one of the brand newest, if not the newest. We're only 8 years old. We were lucky to work with the city and get a new curling club built when we built the Cavendish Center here on the west side. We're 10 sheets. We are one of the largest. There are only a couple of 10-sheeters in Alberta right now. We're brand new. We have state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art ice making plant, and a wonderful viewing area, open open to everybody. So it's a brand new facility that is as good as there is in Alberta right now.
Wow, that sounds great. So how many members do you currently have in the club?
We have about 600 full-time members. We have we average around 60 juniors in our program. We have a couple of what we would call leagues that just come in and rent. So we have over 1,000 people curling per week in the club in various times. We start curling at 10 in the morning and people are curling at 10 at night.
Wow. That's a significant activity and group of people if you have 1,000 people per week during the season.
Yeah. We're one of the busiest clubs in Alberta for sure.
Wow. And so how does the Lethbridge Curling Club serve the local seniors?
We have, that's fantastic. We have our daytime senior league that runs Tuesday to Friday. It's a really easy league to get into. It runs in very short, sort of little 5-week groups. We put people together on teams. If you don't have a team, you just show up, and we put you together with all of our other seniors. Seniors are a big part of our club, and they spend a significant amount of time here during the day, just curling and making friends and spending time.
Yeah, that community aspect of curling is enormous. Now, how about the other end of the age spectrum, those students? Are there school clubs or let's say phys ed classes that go curling?
Yeah, we have our own junior program that runs on Wednesdays, and that's for kids 9 to 15. We host a high school league. The high schools come in Monday and Tuesday, and all the high schools get together and they come in. Very significant, probably the biggest in the province again. Gym classes book our during the school year. We have probably 8 or 10 different schools that bring their gym classes in for an hour at a time. And we have some instructors that pop out there and help out the teachers because a lot of times they don't know how to curl either. And it's all a part of how busy we are and how connected to the community we are.
Right. Now, just to stick with that younger generation for a moment, do you see that there is that interest from the younger generation to be in leagues?
There is, and it's curling has sort of fills that gap. There's a lot of kids that just aren't going to play hockey. They're going to play soccer or whatever it is. But during the school year, they can curl. Anybody can come out. Like I say, we can teach anybody how to curl. It's, nobody sits out. If you come out, you play. There's no sitting on the sidelines. There's no, 6 a.m. practices in the morning, games at 9 o'clock at night. Parents love bringing their kids to curling because they know when it is every week, and their kids have a great time playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have fond memories from my youth of throwing the rocks down the sheets. Yeah. And
as do I, but mine was a little bit longer ago than yours.
Well, they're still locked in there, and right I know I would probably be remiss not to mention my high school friend Steve Fisher. His family was all over the sheets of ice there in and around Medicine Hat. But now, what about provincial winning teams or maybe future Olympians that might be calling Lethbridge home?
Yeah, we've had some success with some of our competitive curlers, our competitive juniors coming out of here. Kaylee Shannon, the Whitmire brothers. They're like on the verge now of moving to that next elite level, and you never know. You never know sort of how a team gets put together or how it goes. Of course, we have the Scheidegger family with Casey and Jesse. Casey took a bit of step back to start her family. And I'm pretty sure she'll be back into it right away. And Jesse's still curling at a high competitive level. So, the curling, the Olympic trials are this November. So you never know who might get up there and get on a hot streak, and we'll see them on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always great to watch. Now, I wanted to ask you about the cost to join and play in a league.
Yeah, it's curling very reasonable. To be a member of our club, right? Just to be a member and to access practice ice and come in. It's only $70 a year to be a member of Lethbridge Curling Club. Our main weekday leagues, our big leagues, our big adult leagues, about $380 for the whole season to play. Kids play for less than half of that. Our seniors play for less than that. So for around $400 or less, you can curl for a full season and you get access to as much practice ice as you want and instruction and use of our lounge and all of our other facilities.
Right. Well, that sounds very reasonable for what a person's going to get out of it, and especially the cost of entertainment these days. It's great to be physically active and be out on the sheets of ice. Now, I wanted to ask you, we all probably remember the old straw brooms. So if somebody wants to get into this, what are they looking at as far as equipment costs go?
To just get started, the club will loan you, all you need is a pair of sneakers and a pair of gloves. And if you come out to learn how to curl, we've got some learn to curls. We have brooms you can borrow. We've got sliders that you can slide on. We have all the stuff that you can borrow. So basically, like I say, all you need is a pair of clean runners and a pair of gloves, and you can learn. And even after that, as you start to progress through, it's not that expensive. A broom is $100, and a pair of shoes is $150, and they last for 4 seasons, type of thing. So it's a very inexpensive sport. As you get more competitive, of course, the costs go up. But yeah, starting in curling is as inexpensive as you can get.
Good. Well, hopefully some of the people who are watching this that are looking for something to do through the winter would reach out to the Lethbridge Curling Club.
I hope so. We have our Learn to Curls at September 25th and 26th. We'll get that out on our social media channels and in our advertising and let people know. And we welcome everybody. If you've never curled before in your life, doesn't really matter. Come on in and we'll teach you how to curl.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap up, speaking of that person that's never curled before and is thinking of something to do, what would be your sage advice to them?
Come on down and try it. It can't hurt to try it. We have our instructors are so good. They're so patient. They will show everybody. You don't have to be super athletic to learn how to curl. And it's the old thing. You got to feel a little bit of bad knees, something. We've got devices to help you, get the rock down the ice, help you sweep, help you get it all done. But I think my advice is just try. Just come on out and try it.
Yeah, because it's not that physically demanding of a sport, is it?
At the beginning level, no, it's not. Right? Once we teach you how to sweep and you learn how to do that, you'll want to get a little bit better and a little bit more exertion. And of course, the pros at the top level is as physically demanding as any sport. But yeah, to get started, no, we can. It's a recreation at the beginning.
Yes.
Right. It just turns into a sport as it goes along.
Yeah. Now, here's kind of an off-the-wall topic, or question, I should say. So how heavy are the curling stones? We don't have to lift them, thankfully. We can slide them around, but what does one of those things weigh?
They are 40 pounds.
Okay. Well, not bad.
They're 40 pounds worth of granite. So they slide along. We got to push them about 145 feet down the ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
And smooth as silk most of the time.
Smooth as silk. The running band on the bottom touches about 1/8 of an inch of the rock is riding on the ice. And the technology around pebbling and turning it and curling it it's state of the art now. So it's smooth. It's smoothly roll. It just slides down there.
Totally. And I think I was told once when I was much younger, if you fall, we'll just push you along too, and you can end up in the house. But
right, hopefully you bounce back up quick enough before we have to slide you along.
Yeah, that's right. So when this new season, well, I guess the new season is beginning, how do people register to participate in the club?
We have an online registration system through our website at lethbridgecurlingclub.com. Or once the office is open, you can come on in and talk to us, and we can register you here. We can give you a tour of the facilities and just give you a whole overview of what you can expect. So online, in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you talked about the Learn to Curl. Are there any other events that are going to be coming up as we get closer to November, December?
We're hosting, one of the things that we did mention is in February this year, the Lethbridge Curling Club is hosting the University and College Canadian Championships in our club. Yeah, the U Sports and the CCAA curling championships. So that's a big deal. We'll have 32 teams from across Canada of university and college students here curling with opportunity to go to the Worlds. So it's a big deal. They'll be here for a week.
Wow, that's exciting. That is a big deal.
It is.
So that's February 2025.
Correct.
Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. I love talking about curling.
The use of pornography has become even more of an addiction and more common today as compared to previous generations. Recent stats say the number of women who are watching porn has been increasing, so not just the men. Today's guest is going to talk a bit about that. Dr. Joy Skarka joins us now from Bradenton, Florida. She's the Director of Discipleship for the ministry organization Authentic Intimacy and co-author of the book Her Freedom Journey, A Guide Out of Porn and Shame to Authentic Intimacy. Good to have you with us, Joy. Thanks for joining us here from Florida.
Thanks, Hal. So glad to be here.
Now, you personally had a bit of a struggle with pornography as well to help inspire the book. Tell us a bit about that.
I did, yes. So it kind of became my story and then my passion to help other women find freedom because I had so much trouble finding resources specifically for women. And so that added on a layer of shame as well. So yes, it's my story and now my ministry.
Now, we know how much of an issue porn is for men. How has it become so much more of an issue for women these days? And let's talk about some of the statistics where you got your research from.
Yeah, so people are always shocked. Oh, women struggle with this? Really? I thought this was a men's issue. And so yes, actually one of the largest porn sites, they release their data every year, their statistics, their viewers, and they said that 36% of viewers in the last year, 2023, were women, and that's globally. And that over the last 10, 15 years, every year increases. So we know that they are targeting women. They are creating porn specifically to women, marketing to us, and trying to capture us. And so, yes, it's growing exponentially.
I guess they think it's almost like an untapped audience, an opportunity to make even more money then, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And they are reaching in and creating this specific porn. It's almost like a romance movie, but rated, think of it as just rated R. It's tapping into our desire to be fully known and fully loved. And women are just so lonely and seeking for that. And so this is a false substitute that isn't actually helping.
And I guess people are also feeling lonely and vulnerable as well, are susceptible to the porn.
Yeah, so some of the reasons women turn to porn, it could be that loneliness, any really negative emotion like anger, frustration, isolation, kind of guilt, shame. They get stuck in this cycle of going back to it, feeling more shame, and then they can't get out of it until they begin to break free from some of those deeper root issues.
Now, from a Christian perspective and even from a wholeness perspective, why is pornography so wrong, Joy?
I know some people say, well, I only look every once in a while. What's the big deal? But really, you are watching image bearers. So if we believe everyone's made in the image of God, you're watching image bearers of God do things online that were created for a covenant relationship in a marriage, so between a man and a woman. So if you're married, you're inviting someone else into the bedroom. And if you're single, you're not living out God's design for wholeness, sexual wholeness and integrity. And so there's that piece. There's also the piece ethically that, a lot of pornography is attached to sex trafficking, and there's some research done that the performers have to be high or drunk to get through filming all day. So there's that element. And then lastly, how there's so much of it that makes it about you. So it becomes selfish for you and your desires instead of the purpose of marriage and sex and marriage intimacy to draw you closer and unify you. It actually does the opposite of make it all about you and separate you from one another.
Yeah, wouldn't it also create some unrealistic expectations, especially when you're married? Like you say to your wife or your husband, why can't you look like that?
Oh yeah, because it's fake, it's edited, it's photoshopped. It makes sex, it portrays it in a way that's not realistic. And so it does create a lot of expectations for someone single who then gets married, and it's kind of like a letdown, like, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. And so in our ministry, Authentic Intimacy, we do a lot of work helping those couples re-understand what is God's design, how can we actually live this out and kind of get away from pornography.
So, Joy, in your opinion, how did society get to this point and this current state of sexual brokenness? What are some of the causes?
Well, there's a lot, right? It's more accessible. It's free. So back in the day, you had to go into a store, a building, right, and to buy it. Now it's everywhere. It's on your phones, and not even that. It's in what we see on a regular basis, like our social media, our movies. Everything is more X-rated, I guess you could say, than it used to be. And even you'd be so shocked, the average age of first exposure is 7 to 11 years old. Some research says 7, some says 11. And so you have some people who could have been watching this stuff for decades, and it's impacting your body, it's impacting your brain. And so they just think, oh, this is normal, this is okay. One research study actually said Gen Zs thought recycling, not recycling, was worse than watching pornography morally. Like, you should recycle is more important than pornography. So we don't have this understanding of what God's design actually says.
Should we also maybe look at what Hollywood has been putting out, maybe even advertising agencies with some of their clients when it comes to soft porn? Maybe that is becomes a launching pad?
Right. I mean, they say what sex sells is the slogan, and we see that really impacting people. And so for women, especially a little different than men, women are drawn to erotica, which is a type of soft porn, like you mentioned. And so if you look at like the 50 Shades of Grey phenomenon, that has captured many Christian women and get them reading and now watching the films, and the films back on Netflix, I believe. And so, yeah, it really is capturing. And if you look at what it's doing, it's reaching into our desire to be fully known and fully loved, which is how God created us. But He's the only one that can fill that void. Not porn, not erotica, not a movie. Only He can fill that void.
So, Joy, what are some of the common things that really keep a person stuck in porn instead of finding freedom through Christ?
Yeah, so definitely the shame piece, especially for women, that isolation, the fear of telling somebody, oh, what if somebody knew? They're going to judge me. They're not going to want to be my friend anymore, or I'm not going to get the help I need. So there's that element. And then there's the actual physical addictive element. So pornography changes your brain. It changes your neurological pathways so that every time you're triggered by a similar thing, your first thought is, oh, let me do this, let me watch this. And so they've actually compared some of the brains of people on drugs, on alcohol, and porn. There's a lot of similarities there because it's that rush of dopamine, that rush of chemicals in your brain that keeps you wanting to come back for harder and more variety, different types.
How about if a woman has an accountability partner, her BFF kind of steps up to the plate and says, hey, what you're going down this path is wrong?
Yeah, that's great. It's just, it doesn't happen very often that a woman easily finds a friend who is willing to talk about it or even knows how to talk about it. That's one of the reasons why Julie, my co-author, and I created our book, Her Freedom Journey, because it's a tool for a friend, a discipler, a women's ministry leader, to be able to partner alongside with someone. Because since we don't talk about this a lot, people don't really know how to help someone who's struggling. So if there is a friend out there that's like, hey, I'm willing to help, that's a good friend.
Yeah, a true friend, you really says it as it is, right? Instead of tries to sugarcoat it. Like, bottom line, brass tacks, this is what you're going through right now. So why does trying harder typically not work, Joy? How does one really flee temptation in advance?
Yeah, so we actually have a chapter in the book called Stop Trying So Hard, because that's been the message in so many different spaces and different recovery fields of, oh, just stop looking at it. Or you might have heard of the phrasing, white knuckling your way out of it. But, the more you think about something, the more you might want to do it, like the elephant in the room. And so we actually encourage women, stop counting your days, stop trying on your own strength. And it's actually an act of surrender. Like it's you open up your hands and you say, God, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need your help. I need my community's help. I need the help of others because I'm stuck. I feel helpless, hopeless, all these things. And so it's really an act of daily surrender and obedience and joining with others in community.
What are some other practical steps someone can take to really pursue that freedom?
Yes, so the first step we encourage people is to bring it into the light. So the enemy, he thrives in the darkness. That's where you're believing all those lies. That's where you're stuck. And so by sharing it with a trusted friend or even a counselor, a biblical counselor that you're struggling, that's a great first step. And then after that, creating kind of like a toolbox of things you can turn to in the moment of triggers and temptations, kind of like practical applications, like calling a friend, going on a walk, and then setting up some accountability software on all your devices, which is really important if you have little ones because they can easily just access stuff without even trying on the internet today. So that's a very practical tool that all parents can start doing now, even if their kid has never seen porn.
So in your opinion, what are some of the lies that we believe about sexuality, and how do we really break free from them?
You know, there are so many. This could have been a whole nother book because there are just so many lies that sex is dirty, that even having sexual desire as a single person, you kind of are told repress until you're married, when in reality, God created us all as sexual beings. You don't become a sexual person the day you get married. That's called the light switch effect. It's a myth. And so that's some of them. And then even that some people believe that God doesn't care about their sexuality. They think because God is so holy that he couldn't be a part of sex because we think of it sometimes as dirty. But the reality is he created it. He said it was good, and he didn't design for it to be shame-based. And so he wants you to live in wholeness and have a healthy view. So those are just a few of them, but really how we could go on and on.
Now, can you explain the real spiritual aspect of sex, Joy? You suggest that sexual urges are reminders of God's intention for intimacy and a sexual covenant, correct, between husband and wife?
Right. So this is a hard concept for many people to understand, but really our sexual desires and our longings point us back to God. And when I first heard that, I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense, because we're just so used to kind of separating the spiritual and the physical element of it. But yes, like this is something God created, that longing, because he wants a personal, intimate relationship with us. And a marriage covenant, that is just a metaphor. It is just a glimpse of our relationship with him. And so we on earth just experience a tiny little snapshot at what he has created. And I know that's hard to wrap your mind around, but it's a beautiful thing when you think about it.
Now, you mentioned kids as young as 7 years of age have been introduced to pornography. That's just scary and shocking. What do parents really need to know about pornography to protect their kids?
I know, and I talk to parents all the time, and I tell them, if you're not talking to your kids, the world is. I mean, so for me, part of my story was I actually saw it as a fifth grader. A friend introduced me to pornography, just opened up the computer, there it was. And then later, as a college student, when I had all these questions about sex, I just started Googling them, and that led me back to pornography, and that's when it really became a problem in my life. And so that's what's happening to our kids. They're curious. They go enter in their questions, or even now they ask Alexa, what is sex? Like, people do that all the time. And so the kids are just so curious. They're innocent. And so you have to, as a parent, share it with them and answer their questions and be a safe place so that they're coming to you and not to the internet, not to their peers. And just realizing if you're not the one talking to them about sex, someone else is.
Joy, how does a daughter's relationship with her father really influence her need for love and acceptance, and maybe even her view of God?
It does impact it dramatically, but what I like to tell women is there's so much hope and healing that can take place. But for so many women, the way that they see God, so their view of God, is based off of their earthly father. So maybe if he was absent, maybe if he kind of was abusive emotionally or physically, or had very high expectations of them, wanting them to perform well as a kid. That's how they view God, and so they view him as a distant father and not a loving father. And so a lot of kind of my healing journey and the work that we do with our women is helping them to see who God actually is. Like, what are the lies you are believing? What is the image you're putting on God? Is it based on your earthly father? And helping them process through that really helps their healing journey.
So what are some of the qualities of a good earthly father?
Oh, I love that question. So someone who's present, someone who like invests and spends time in them, cares, listens, asks good questions. It doesn't have to be a dad who has all the answers, right? None of us do, but one who's really present and active and loving in their life.
And let's say the daughter has issues with pornography and she wants to go to her mother. How should the mother really respond and support her daughter in that regard?
Yeah, so this is important for a mom or even a friend. If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," the way your face says, are you responding with empathy or are you responding with shock? Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you just said that. That has so much of an impact on the person who's struggling, whether they feel shame or whether they feel safe and love and can talk about it. So your facial expressions, even just saying, "Wow, thank you so much for coming forward and sharing that with me. That had to be so hard. Thank you." And then helping them find next steps. Like, even if you say, "Well, I'm not really sure how to help you right now, I'm going to find a way to help you." And our book, Her Freedom Journey, is such a great way. We've actually loved to have mothers and daughters go through it together. Now, it would be a great tool for mothers and daughters for discipleship, relationships, small groups. It has discussion questions built in, so perfect for that situation.
Dr. Joy Skarka is the co-author of Her Freedom Journey, a guide out of porn and shame to authentic intimacy. Joy, thanks so much for joining us today from Bradenton, Florida.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hal.
You bet. On behalf of all of us here in Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless you.